Okay. During that period of time, my family all went to war and left my English grandmother and I at home. And in going to work for the different kennels under such austere consequences, there was no driving by cars. We went by buses and trains, and there was a Paoli local train. It's a commuter train from Philadelphia out through the latest stop before you got to Harrisburg, if you know Pennsylvania geography. And we used to go on the train, and we were kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We were kind of loaned out to all the other breeders too. So I remember especially one time when I walked to the station to get on the train, the commuter train, with a Collie, an Afghan, an Old English, and a Dobie. And they were all boys. And trust me, they did not have anything to say to each other because kids are no nonsense. And the train conductor just kind of looked as we climbed up the steps, and he's shaking his head, and I've got the dogs and I've got a brush. And that's all we needed. That was our total kennel kit. And we had such a good time. I had two buddies. Barbara Post, whose husband was a professor of Greek and Latin at Haverford College, and Barbara Strong, who came from a family of doctors but was the youngest of 12, and she would get farmed out to her different aunts and uncles, and she'd take her post-hole digger, her roller fence, and the Collie puppy that she bought from Van Dyke, who had the most gosh-awful Roman nose. He just totally disfigured. But he was her family. And we went off, the three of us, to all these different dog shows. But the thing that had made the biggest difference was Van said, okay, girls, you're getting on the train and you're going to visit Mrs. Lunt of Allstate Collies. She changed my life. So we got on the train and went up to Rahway, New Jersey, where Mrs. Lunt had her beautiful big old Victorian home and her kennels. She met us at the train, and I am so impressed. I'm 12 years old. I know that cars don't move anymore because there's no gas or oil or tires. And she met with her 3 gallons a week, met us at the train, took us to the kennels for the day. Now, this is the thing about Mrs. Lunt. Mrs. Lunt was a lady of the real school. And she would take us through her kennels. It wasn't a great big kennels because I don't think she ever had more than maybe 40 or 50 dogs. This is the mother of the Collie. And she would take each dog out by itself. Her orders, and it wasn't instructions, it was orders. You may not say one negative word. You shall look at this dog. You may examine it all you want, but then remember, the first thing that you will see is what's wrong about the dog. You have to think about that, and then you have to stand back and say, why is that particular thing wrong about this dog? What is it you don't like? And then she said, you will have to reflect on this. Then you will go past that. And you will tell me what's right about this dog. And unless you examine the dog negatively first, you will never see what's right about it. And it was a whole new concept. Coming from a family where we never could quite measure up, and we were not perfect children, and teachers that were not perfect students, was the first time I ever heard anybody say, not a negative word. You shall be positive. And there's something right about each dog, even if it's only a happy wagging tail, which is character.
Absolutely.
And she changed my life.
So that just changed your whole focus of how you view dogs.
She gave me permission to be positive, but not just in dogs, in people, in circumstances, than everything else in the counter. It's all encompassing. My mother didn't like it too much. She called me Pollyanna. But it has helped so much with everything I have encountered in my life. And everything, good or bad, that you experience is never wasted, because you will encounter it again down the road, and now you've got some tools to work with.
What a beautiful gift.
Yes. I'd like to get back to Van Dyke. Van Dyke was a character. He was a great writer. He was a writer for the Evening Public Ledger, which was the newspaper, the Republican newspaper of Philadelphia. And I joined the Keystone Collie Club and this Delaware County Kennel Club as a junior member. And the love of my life is dog shows. And we'd meet in his office, or we'd go over to his apartment. He had no dogs at that point. But what he did, which was so valuable for the breed, was he gathered people together. He put people together. And he insisted that we visit each other. And of course, he turned us loose as the resident slaves or during World War II. And I was I've always been passionate about genetics, that we never really lose a puppy or a dog we love if we continue with the family. But sometimes that doesn't work too well. But I was looking at knowing what it took. The last kennels I worked in were Mulford Kennels in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. For those of you on the East Coast, the Pine Barrens are a swamp. And it's where a lot of dog breeders wound up during the war because the land was cheap and there was no running water. You used water in the creek. And you hoped that the breeder upstream of you was not washing their dogs while you were trying to get some clean water. And it was not a very savory situation. The people did not have that much money, and Van kind of had his breeding program spread out with all his people that he was mentoring, which is what you have to do. You can't keep all the dogs, and you have somebody to carry on, so you go and help them carry your thoughts on. And it made me realize that, first of all, to do no damage to the breed, you have to have resources, you have to have space, you have to have money. So I'm looking for how to earn a living and raise collies. Well, when I was 15, I went down to the University of Penn Veterinary School and interviewed with the dean. Wasn't all big and fancy of those days, and you could really talk face to face with the dean as a sophomore in high school. And I said, if I bring these grades to you, when I'm eligible, would you consider me for veterinary school? Now, he was about my size, and we're looking eye to eye at each other, and he looked at me and he says, "You can't rope a cow." And I was very polite. I thought to myself, well, neither can you, honey. It's called a farmer. But I said, okay. You see, when I was also about 5 years old, I'm going to go a little way from the dogs for 30 seconds. When I was also 5 years old, my mother took me to see a Shirley Temple movie. And it was about airplanes. Everything in the 30s was about airplanes. And walking up the aisle after seeing the movie, I thought, I'm going to fly an airplane. I'm going to have a collie, and I'm going to fly an airplane. But I'm not sure, maybe I can be a veterinarian and have enough money to raise collies and have an airplane. But now, coming out of that dean's office, well, I'm not going to be a veterinarian, so I'll do airplanes for a living and collies for a hobby. There's a little problem with that. Airplanes take you there, collies need you here. So it's a little conflicting. And so I went back and changed my science courses for the rest of my high school years, from biologies and chemistries to physics and math. And meantime, I got a job that paid good money, like 50 cents an hour, in a big, huge family-owned pet shop. And I worked there for 3 years. And when I was 16 and a half, I went out to the airport across the street from the Philadelphia grass field. And by that time it was 1946. And so I started flying lessons. Along that same time, I was in high school at that point, and the three of us started a kennel club in the high school. And my Latin teacher was our sponsor. And it was so amazing that here's a time, we were losing World War II at that point. And these people would bring Mrs. Peterson with skipper keys, Mr. Wagner with boxers. They'd bring their different breeds to the kennel club. And we had over 100 members. And they weren't teaching us to show or anything, they were teaching us their breed. They're teaching us breed character. This is the breed, this is what it looks like, this is why it is here this way in this function. And I was always so grateful to them because it was such a period of round-the-clock austerity for everybody that they were so generous. So I can say that they became our family, the dog people. And then I got into flying and went off to college in Missouri. One of the things that was really helpful in going to a place like Missouri to school is a whole different culture. Everything is different there. The dog shows are different. The dogs look different. Every corner of the country, people are breeding in what's local. They're training their eye on what's local. And yet in every part of the country, it's different. So after college, Stormy stayed home. That was my beloved tricolor that I finally got. Stayed with my family because I went off trying to earn a living as a pilot. And you can see I don't really have the image. But the nicest thing about flying airplanes that it doesn't take long legs and male muscles to fly an airplane. It just takes a little work and study. And so at that point, I had to give up the thoughts of any further Collies until I could support them. And I followed the job opportunities. At first it was work at half pay to see if the passengers would fly with somebody that looks like me, which is not terribly impressive. And bless their hearts, they did. And I taught people to fly. I worked as a pilot for blanket aircraft. But it took me, I went back from Missouri to New Jersey, to Delaware, to Florida, to Puerto Rico. And always different airplanes, different jobs, a lot of different functions. Of course, I didn't particularly want to be an airline pilot because that was being a bus driver. That wasn't as interesting. Or it paid a little better, but not that much in the 50s. But always I'd go to dog shows everywhere when I could.